Check. There we go.
What are you checking for?
I had adjusted my gains when I was playing with your gains, and so I turned down what comes into my ears versus what goes out to you.
Okay. All right. I thought you were checking for crabs or something. That's happened before in my life. My mom came home a little tipsy one night, went to the bathroom, and swore she saw something in the bathtub and checked every one of us for crabs that night.
Did she check herself?
I don't know if she did or not. I was probably a teenager at that time.
Oh, okay. That's why she checked you. I mean, teenagers.
I had nothing to do with it, but I had to go in with my stepdad, and he had to look at my shit.
Mom, it's a stink bug.
And I'm like, I'm not checking yours, bro. So you're going to have to get mom's drunk ass in here to check it, because I'm not checking your southern cock. Not going to happen.
Yeah, that's
I'm not going south of the border on you, young man.
No. Plus, he had a belly. You know, he was one of
You don't want to have to hold it up?
No, that's gross.
Imagine women having to do that. Just hold it up. You know, like, fucking, they run out of hands and ways to do shit because they're holding a belly off their fucking forehead.
It's so weird.
Okay, now, Aaron, I got a question for you. Why do you have a cup that says aim high when you sit down to pee?
Oh, gosh,
Valid.
that's a very great question. It's a metaphor, aiming high. Like, it's to try to reach a goal as opposed to sitting down on the toilet. And you know what? I've learned that sitting down on the toilet is actually a very smart thing to do. It eliminates any messes, cleanups. You can't get blamed for shit. The toilet seat's always down, and it's relaxing.
So instead of aim high, you want to drop it like it's hot.
Drop it like it's hot.
Yes.
Yeah, I learned the same thing in prison. You know, when you're sitting there with a lifer and he tells you to sit your ass down and don't get piss all over my stuff, and you're like, what the hell are you talking about? He's like, you sit down to pee, man. I don't need your fucking DNA all over the fucking room. I'm here forever, and you're getting out in fucking 20 days.
Prison.
Yeah. I mean, good advice. It is good advice.
But prison, Chuck?
What?
Prison?
Moving on.
All right. Hey, I guess it's about that time, fellas.
For what?
Welcome to Around the Reel with your host, Aaron Carlson, Charles Lawson, and Steve Eaton. Boy, no way, boy.
That time. Hi.
Oh, hey, that thing.
How's it going?
I keep forgetting to look. You know, the screens are different since we switched to StreamYard. StreamYard brought to you by StreamYard.
But everyone, if you are confused, it is November.
Yes, it is November.
Yes.
But season 5 started October. I'll change it. I'll fix it. But
There
It's
you
all
go. Yeah,
good.
he'll,
I think we
he'll
should
fix
leave
it in
it.
post.
I know. Yeah, I'll fix it in post. How the hell are you guys?
Well, we are definitely in November.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
And we're going to see something that's very, very rarely seen on this show. I want everybody to pay very close attention to Mr. Carlson's face, because we're about to have an episode where we are going to discuss politics and what the hell just happened to our society and what happened this week in America.
Wow, that's fun. I don't think we've ever been allowed to have a discussion about politics on this program.
One reason other hosts didn't like the cut topic, like myself,
Right.
like Samantha Hanna,
Mm-hmm.
because it causes a lot of divide. Now, here's the funny thing. I'm more like George Carlin when it comes to politics, and I don't believe or trust any of those motherfuckers. I don't vote. It's also a great way to get out of having to ever do jury duty.
Sure.
That's true.
But that being said, I do not like the fact that it turns everyone so hateful toward one another.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it does.
how do you guys feel about the election this week, and what did you take from the aftermath from it?
Ooh, this is a big topic, Chuck. But I'm down. I'm down. Steve, you down?
Fuck yeah.
Okay, we'll do it. It's kind of a creative still conversation if you think about it.
Yeah, we're going to hear some really creative words, Mom, so pay attention.
Well, we had a guest today. Unfortunately, they had to reschedule, so now we're sitting here and we're going to have a show for some people to listen to and see what kind of blowback we get. I love
That's right.
blowback. What was the Travolta movie back in the day?
Blowout.
Blowout. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll have one of those too.
Wait, Blowout. That's Travolta? I thought that was
What?
Tommy Curtis and Jeff Bridges.
That was
Not Tommy Curtis. Tommy Curtis. Tommy Lee Jones. Jesus
Tommy
Lord.
Lee Jones. No, that was Is
I
that
feel
the one
hot.
with the
Am I hot?
fire? I don't.
Yeah.
You're a little warm.
All
You're a
day
little
long, buddy.
Yeah, it's Blowout though. Yeah, it was like in the 70s, right, Steve? Something like
Yeah,
that?
I believe.
Yeah.
I think it was like 78, something like that.
Yeah, De Palma. I think
The
it was De
remake
Palma.
was in the early 90s.
Okay, got it.
You
got
did
it.
a
See?
remake?
I didn't know
Of
that.
Blowout?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Jeff Bridges is the bad guy. Tommy Lee Jones is the cop.
Blown away.
Blown
Oh,
away.
I know.
Yes,
You know,
thank
if it doesn't
love
have the
that.
word job at the end of it, I really don't fucking pay attention.
Yeah.
Speaking of blowjobs, Aaron, he wants to kick us off on how you feel about this week's election.
You're still a little warm on your mic though, but you're fine.
Okay, here you go.
Okay, so yeah,
Thank you.
This was a surprising and yet not surprising result. I think I've been leery, but at the same time I was hopeful, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
When this all went down, I have my own personal feelings about the type of person I believe Trump is. And I've never really cared for him because I know he's full of shit. I know it deep down. However, it's the same feeling I get with a lot of people in general. I know they're full of shit. So when I see someone like Kamala, or even back in the day with Obama, even though everybody goes, politicians always lie. I know they do. I get it.
Severity matters.
Yeah, but what's their message? What is their motive behind running? Like,
What are they
and-
lying to you about?
Yeah, and why are they lying? Is it for self-interest or is it for something else? Do they have a goal in mind that could help others? So I specifically think of it like this. If you're a Trump voter, I believe you're more interested in yourself and what can be done for you. And I think if you're more of a Democratic voter and you're voting for someone like Kamala or back in the day with Obama, it's about, if they're elected, they won't necessarily help me, but they might help all these other people who need them. That's how I kind of feel. I don't know if that's right, but that's how I feel. Like, for example, Kamala would be supporting women's rights, right? Kamala would be supporting LGBTQ stuff. That's not going to affect me. I'm 51 years old. I don't have abortions. It doesn't bug me. But it would help other people. Now, if you think about someone like Trump, who's going to do all these things to supposedly fix everything and make more money in my pocket and make my job more secure and make life easier from what he's saying, then I could say, well, why wouldn't I vote for him? Because I don't believe him. And but I believe them. So I that's kind of where I was. And I'm going to stop right there to let someone else talk before we get going more, because I'll talk the whole fucking time.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Thanks for joining us on our 3-hour episode of Around the Wheel, and we now call What the Fuck?
I'm actually really glad we had a meeting last night, Aaron and our other friend Kelvin, and I got out a lot of like my normal blowout first.
Mm-hmm.
I went off for a while, but I think it's like one of those things where it's like, yes, all politicians lie, because people in groups are not great at the truth.
Correct.
Like,
Mhm.
and I'm not saying I would rather not be lied to, but if you're just straight up about it, like, hey, we're not going to do that because we can't afford it as a culture. But I do agree. I think Aaron got it pretty correctly that the Trumpian side will say there's no such thing as Disneyland, and the other side will say we're all going to Disneyland and just not go. And I think that's pretty much where it's at. It's like
That's a fucking great description of politics right there.
It
Also
really is.
co-parenting. I mean, it's both.
Yeah, and I stole it. Sorry, guys. But yeah, that is the gist. It's like, yes, they both lie, but at least they're getting your hopes up first. But that almost hurts more.
Yeah,
in some ways. Yeah,
I get that too, and that's the thing. That's sad about it, because their message is hopeful, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Where you listen to someone like Trump and you're just thinking to yourself, dude, everything's fucked. Our country is just a piece of shit, and the world is fucked. We're all gonna burn and die. And that kind of talk you'd think would not resonate with people, but it did.
yeah.
It fucking did. And
Well,
then it got me thinking. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm really glad that at least the number. I mean, personally, I'm very I'm against Trump. If you couldn't figure it out pretty quick, but if I think that if you started looking at the amount of numbers, Trump's numbers went down overall from the last election, but Kamala's went down a whole lot more.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of shows a general disinterest in the political process. I think Chuck is probably a much more normal vote nowadays. I had a couple of different friends where I'm like, I think they would be fairly lefty, and they're like, I couldn't vote for either of them. And I think that the protest vote probably made the decision far more than anybody agreeing with Trump more.
Right.
At least the numbers would tell me that. So that makes me feel better, though, because I do think there's a selfishness in voting for that side, but we're selfish, all of us. I mean,
yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Let me ask you. Well, and you had another thought before. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, please. Go ahead.
Hold your thought. Well, I'm going to ask a different question. So, do you want to just move forward?
No, because it'll come up later. You're fine.
Okay. So, here's my question for you guys. Since you guys both do lean left, and I'm not talking about what's in your pants, or actually, maybe it does. That's
Also
the only part of me that really does lean left, but that's okay. Everything else is right down the middle.
Yeah, fair enough.
But no, my question is, so do you think that the anticlimactic office of Biden and Harris hurt Kamala's chances at being the one who came in and took over and ran?
I think so. I think that people live in the moment, and I think they don't think past that. I don't think they understand that, the economy works in phases and it takes time to change things. Yeah. And, you think about going back to Obama, and he's right. With 8 years in office, he fixed the economy after the crash. He did. It was high. And then Trump comes in and takes his economy and rides that bitch out all through COVID. Now COVID hits, fucks everything up. Trump bails.
The real response.
Yeah, rides after. And then a few years later, you start to see this inflation hitting up, not just in America, but worldwide. Right? Yeah. It's everywhere. So that's probably an outcome from COVID and us trying to recoup. Businesses were shut down. Products were scarce. We all know. Prices went up. Right? So then Biden comes in. And he's an old man and quiet, and he takes the old way of doing things, and it's pretty non-climactic. But you see inflation is dropping now, and you see that unemployment's down. Yeah. However, it hasn't affected our pocketbooks yet, right? Yep. So what do people you think about? They think about right now how shit's expensive, and they go to a grocery store instead of spending $25-$30 for groceries, they're spending $70 or $80. That's bullshit. Yeah. And I agree. I completely agree. It's fucked. I go to the grocery store every day. I can't stand it. I'm like, dude, I remember when a bag of groceries at fucking Safeway was $25, and I could feed everybody dinner and breakfast the next day. Can't do that now. It's over $50 every fucking time. Every fucking time. That's what I think people think about. I don't blame the administration for the economy because I know that they're fixing it. You can see the numbers. But I do think that people lack patience when it comes to their pocketbook. And that's all it is. That's what I think.
I think that that's probably the most important question in this race is what you said, which is that the Biden administration and what they were able to do in the amount of time that they did, or what they did, I shouldn't say weren't able to do. But I think that it's even more than that. I think you can kind of lay it at the feet of Obama. Actually, not even the president. I'm going to say more the Democratic Party as a whole. I think in the last 40 years while I've been alive has been the distinguished competition in a lot of ways. When you have enormous donors paying both sides, you're like, they're not going to pay the same bunch of people unless they're planning to have one win and one lose. And I think to some extent, I think that the donors pay to make sure that the politics don't change too much. And this is since I was born, like since the Reagan era, or probably earlier, who knows?
Yep.
But I think that they've essentially paid them to be the losing party and to lose as gracefully as possible. And they have become excellently good at that. Yeah. They lose so well and so carefully, in the Senate, the House, and under that.
They lose well.
That I think that's what we're seeing is that like people at more than anything, they're like, you guys should probably do A, B, and C. And they'll be like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to work on A. It's going to take 12 years.
Mhm.
You aren't going to have the presidency for 12 years. But it's going to take 12 years.
Right.
But maybe by the time you die, we can get to see if we're in there all the time.
Right.
I mean, that's a great point. That's one of the things I was thinking of, going off of what even what Aaron said. It's like, when you look at the term for a president, it's 4 years. If they get lucky, they get 8. What's the term of economic change in our demographic in just America? It's 8 to 12 years.
Yes.
You know, when it fell down in 2008, it finally rebuilt by 2014, 15.
Yeah, it takes a minute. It takes a minute to readjust and fix itself.
And then when it fell down again 3 years ago, it ain't going to change until Trump's gone again.
Yeah.
But then you look, though, at the first
But it's going to
Trump.
keep growing. And it's like, oh, was Republicans the answer? No.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and there's something to be said for the slowness of the process if done by the way that bureaucracy moves, which is slow.
Mhm.
But if you look at the first Trump era, he moved real fast.
Mhm.
I mean, like, you look at the amount of things he was able to change. I think almost all of them were horrible,
Mhm.
personally, but he moved fast. So it is possible.
Yeah.
It just takes a lot of political will that I think is built into not to have on the Democratic side.
Yeah, and the thing that's even crazier this time is that now he understands the White House and how it works. Two,
And he has a legion of people behind him.
he's got all these people behind him. Now he's got
Yeah.
what? Did they close out the House yet? Do we know as of today yet for sure?
I don't think it's technically done, but it's
Okay, it's not looking good for
probably done.
Democrats. Yeah. So, and then he's got Senate, and think of all the pushback and controversy he had during his first term
Yeah.
as president. Okay, that probably won't happen now, right? So now he's got a blank check, and
Yeah.
he can do whatever the fuck he wants. So could that work beneficial to us? Maybe. What if he's right? That's what I keep thinking. I'm like, have I been wrong this whole time thinking the way Democrats think, and being liberal and thinking about other people and not trying to be selfish about it and trust the process, kind of a thing. And then you see this hard ass come in who doesn't play by those rules and says what he
And
says
couldn't
and
give a
acts like
fuck
he
about
acts.
the process.
He doesn't give a fuck. And what if that change happened? And we were talking the other day, Steve, about how COVID came out and changed the way things are. I was super excited when COVID was here. I loved it. I love the chaos. I love the crazy. I love seeing stores shut down. I love that the roads there was nobody driving. It was fucking
He hated
great.
the fact that he had to go to work because he was essential.
I know I was essential, but I couldn't stand it. But I was happy for the kids. I'm like, yeah, you guys can stay home. This is great. They were miserable, but I was like, dude, this is fucking great. The kids always tell me, they're not, Dad, if zombies come, it'd be so cool. And I'm like, yeah, it would be, but it'd be scary as fuck. They're like, no, we could fight a zombie. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sakes, you guys can do shit. But they started acting, but then they get in the COVID thing and they're miserable. I'm like, now imagine if zombies came, how miserable you would fucking be. But to me, in my generation of thinking, I fucking love it because I knew change would happen. And then we got remote work and everybody's like, oh, this is fucking great. Business started understanding that people could work from home and do the same job, if not better. It helped people with childcare, right? It saved money on fucking gas, their car payments. Everything was cheaper.
Look at what we're doing for the emission and
Right, and the environment. Everything seemed clean. The roads, the sky was
Maybe
blue.
this is
We were
more
like, what the fuck?
sustainable. Yeah.
But something good came out of it, right? So someone like Trump could be like COVID. He could be that blunt force trauma to shake and rattle the boat. I don't know. It got me thinking about it, though. But the other thing that got me really good, and this was what I was going to say earlier, was the Democrats and how I know I am more leaning that way. Always have been. But I don't like the way they talk. And I don't like the way Trump talks either. You see what I'm saying? It goes both ways here. I don't like the soft language of Democrats. I don't. I can't stand it. I think they're fucking pussies. It drives me up the fucking wall. We do this show in real and we're just, we don't try to watch our mouth. You know why? Because that's how most people fucking talk. They do. Yeah, they do.
When kept
And now,
alone.
so they wonder why, the working class kind of abandoned them. Well, I feel like the working class thinks they abandoned them first.
Yes.
And
Agreed. I think
they're
that's
like,
all of it.
yeah, I'm
Sure.
tired. They're saying I'm tired of fucking watching my P's and Q's and being PC and fucking, I can't say someone's name right or their pronouns right, and I'm gonna eat shit and I'm canceled. No one wants that shit. You know what I mean? They're over it. They are over it. And then you think about how the Democratic Party seems to be leaning more towards college-educated people and all these things. And yeah, they're educated. They are, but they actually act like brats. They act like fucking brats. where you've got some mechanic out there who's busting his ass, and then this kid comes in with his $100,000 car that his parents bought him, talking shit. No one wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear it, so fuck them. That's what I think they're saying. They're saying fuck them and fuck you.
You make a great point. I'm not going to lie. I lean towards the conservative side now. I haven't voted since Obama, and the reason why I voted for Obama was when I shook his hand, I didn't do this afterwards because it was very nice meeting the man, and he seemed genuine. That was the last person I voted for.
Okay.
That being said, I fit more the demographic of the working class than I do of the educated, college-educated one. I got a working man's PhD, and there ain't nothing wrong with that.
Right.
The funny thing is, when you look at those demographics of everything, I've always been under the impression, and you can fuck you, cancel me. Nobody knows who the fuck I am. Cancel me. I don't give a shit.
My boss. Yeah.
Yeah. The problem I've always had with young people and everything else is when people go from high school to college, or even to be recruited by somebody out of college and they get coddled and babied, sorry for using the terms, all the way up until next thing you know, they're fucking 30 and they haven't really had to make a decision on their own, but they have all the intelligence.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck you. Before you make a decision, live some life first.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's where I'm not going to speak for all of them, because even the farmers don't even think the way I think. But that's where a lot of people who started working young is at, as far as like, you need some life under you before you can make decisions for me.
Yeah.
I agree with that on some level, but I also think that if you look at the people who are actually in charge at this point, they're certainly not kids. I mean, really,
Right.
They are
Correct.
ancient. Like we were talking about the blessed nature of having Kamala, where you're like, at least she's only 60.
Right.
And
I'm thinking more of the voting demographic being that young.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm younger than both of you barely, but I think
You get a 5 in front of your name and you're fucking ancient. Ooh.
I almost could have gone to high school with you, but I think that a lot of the time at the right wing, I hate the left right thing, but it's accurate.
I do too.
The right wing news culture and the bubble creation. I think everybody lives in bubbles nowadays. Welcome to the algorithm.
Yep.
But I think that they create a version of that where you're like, all of them are a bunch of 25-year-old getting out of college, don't know anything about the world, and you're like, every single person that I know who's 25 right now is terrified about what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them ended up, if you look at the demographics, most of them ended up going to Trump.
Yeah.
Gen what is it, Gen Y or whatever it was? That age group actually went to Trump more.
Yeah.
And I think it's because there's a backlash culture that they've created, and it's bullshit. They're not actually there. I'm sure they do exist somewhere, but it's certainly not the majority. And I just don't think, I think they've created in a lot of people's minds the version of the left or the right that doesn't really exist. They're just people.
Well, and I think that's where the media fucked up, because they were playing off that card too much.
I don't think they fucked up. I think that was the purpose.
You think
that's their
to push that narrative?
That's their job. I think the right, Fox News, Newsmax, whatever. I think that they know it's their job to create their version of reality and their viewers. And then you look at it. I hate to say that they're, CNN is left wing, but I think they're more corporatist than anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And most of the left wing outlets, except for like random YouTubers, most of them they're corporatists.
Yeah. But they did play the pussy card. They really did. They played the pussy card all the time. It makes you feel so bad for, oh my God, can you believe what Trump said? Oh my God, you believe what they said? Oh my God, how insulting that is. All the time, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, dude, I grew up sticks and stones. Like, what the fuck happened? Why can't anybody handle anything anymore? And we talk about it on the show when it comes to filmmaking, or when we're talking about with crew members, or us in general. We bust each other's balls all the time. And I
One's
think
flat, I can prove it.
Right. I just honestly think that most people are okay with language, that comedians getting canceled. We've had shows. Remember we had another podcast with the comedians that time?
Yeah.
And they were so anti, like, talking down to people for a laugh.
That. Yeah.
They were so irritating to me, and I'll say it right now. I don't give a fuck. They irritated the shit out of me. I couldn't stand.
We don't want any, defamation of character when you're talking to people. It's like,
it's like it's
Where
a
do you pull
comedy
your
show.
jokes from? Fucking Jack in the Crack fucking
Yeah.
boxes?
I mean, we grew up listening to some of the best comedians ever. They were dirty motherfuckers. They didn't give a shit, and they were hilarious. They had a good time. George Carlin,
Yeah.
Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy. These guys were great. They were great.
Victimization is a really terrible shield.
And
And
that's
that's I think a big part of it. I think
I
that they
think
Yeah.
yes, Steve. That's a good way to put it. That victim mentality. I think that's what's rubbing the Democrats the wrong way with the voters. The voters can't stand, especially that group of people.
even
that they
lefties
love.
can't stand
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Like
I'm
a lot
one.
of
I'm one. I can't stand it, but it's my age group too. I grew up at a time where, dude, if I forget to say they or them, and someone gave me shit about that, I would be actually upset because you know what? Fuck you. I'm black. I was called a nigger a lot. I went to an all-white school. I had to earn my respect there. I fought through a bunch of kids that thought it was okay to say that word. I fought through them. It made me stronger. I didn't bitch and cry about it. I fucking was just like, I learned that word doesn't mean shit. If someone called me a nigger, I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, that's very creative. Good job. Ooh. You know, it's not a big deal. Kind of like when I got in the fight with the guy who called me Prince. Okay, that was clever, little fucker. Can't stand him. You know, but he could have called me a nigger all day long. It wouldn't have affected me. When he called me Prince, I'll beat the shit out of him because he actually put thought into that. See what I'm saying? So, you know, I think that sensitivity and that victimness that you're talking about, Steve, is something that is really affecting the Democrats' way to communicate with the masses.
I do think it's
I
more
really
of a
do.
creation though than it really is. I mean, like if you went online, on Twitter or a lot of the online spaces where people are, I would say, hypersensitized.
Mhm.
I know plenty of people who are in those communities that are like, "Could you call me this?" And you're like, "Done." And it's not a big deal. And I think that there's a lot of it that's created because of online discourse and the news saying like, with Trump, for example, but there's tons of them where they'll be like, can you believe they said this? And you're like, what purpose are you having? Is it like to just rage and then keep watching while you rage? Or is it like the 60s where you need to bring out the, go Black Panther on them and actually fight,
Right.
And it's like both of those are responses, but
Yeah.
I think corporate media, for example, and I think is more about please outrage, don't outrage too much, please.
Mhm.
And you're much easier to deal with as a victim than you are as a defender.
Sure. Okay.
Um,
Okay. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. It makes
Well, I mean,
you
it's
wonder,
one
though. Go ahead, Chuck.
I was going to say, it's one of those things. One of my favorite quotes from Denzel Washington, which might have been quoting somebody else, is when he says that if you don't watch or read the news, you're uninformed. If you do watch or read the news, you're misinformed. So where do you draw the line as to what's right and what's wrong? And the problem is every single one of these fucking news things are out to be the first.
Yeah, and you
The
need
first
to know
say
that.
shit. And the problem is, with the world of victim mentality that's going around, anybody and everybody can say something. Doesn't always have to be true. And I'm not saying this to defend any actions of either party or anybody ever says. I just unfortunately have lived a life where I've had victim mentality a lot in my life around me.
Mhm.
And it's an absolute world of chaos for the
Yeah.
people and for the people around them. And and I feel so sorry that there's so much of it in our nation, even in the world, but it's actually more in our nation than it is anywhere else on the planet.
Mhm.
I think at
And
this
that
point we're
is
kind
scary.
of beyond it. I mean, it's like we're getting to the point where it's like if people haven't figured out that the simplicity of the victim mentality, because victim mentality is only good for one thing. It's like if you can figure out something went wrong and you can advocate for yourself to change it. That's not always bitching or being a victim. That's trying to say, hey, this needs to change. Don't be a dick.
Mhm.
On the other hand, if you step out of line nowadays, I mean, all the kids now grew up in the world where you can't even throw a punch without being suspended or expelled from school. And you're like, well, what happens when advocating for yourself doesn't work?
Correct.
And you're like, what if you are a legal immigrant who's worked here for 20 years, kept quiet, paid your taxes, not going to
Mhm.
have Social Security, and they're blaming you
Mhm.
for all of the problems of their ill, and that's just as much bullshit. And it is real. And they
Yeah.
can't advocate for themselves, or they're going to get kicked the fuck out of the country.
Yeah.
You know?
I kept thinking about the whole MAGA thing, the Make America Great Again. And the news will make you think he wants to push it all the way back to like the 1950s or some shit, you know, where rights are taken away from women, black people are pieces of shit, white people got everything and a white picket fence, and they got the great job, the great house, and a great wife who's cooking at home. That's what most Democrats think he wants to do. But what if he just wanted to go back to like the 80s? I love the 80s.
Well, Aaron,
I loved everything about the 80s. I tell the kids all the time. My kids,
would that mean?
we watch all this. Well, there is a lifestyle difference. Like, you know, you didn't have to wear seatbelts. You weren't told you had to wear a fucking seatbelt or a helmet to ride a fucking bike. You could be a kid.
It wasn't against the law to make your own stupid mistakes.
No, it wasn't, right? You could smoke in the bank. You could smoke at the airport. You could smoke cigarettes at the fucking bowling alley. You didn't have somebody going, oh my God, cigarette smoke. And then they abandon. You got to, stay 30 feet away from the fucking front door in the cold ass rain. You can't smoke a cigarette
windows
anymore.
and ventilation systems.
Yeah, even bars, dude. Bars. You can't even drink in a fucking tavern with a cigarette in your mouth. That's bullshit. To me, that's bullshit. And it always has been since they changed that law. So
See,
what if going back to the 80s, man, you could just go back, and if you're at school and you get a bully, and after school and the bell rings, you go across the street and you can get in a fist fight with that kid, and no one says a goddamn word, and you stand up for yourself. You can't even do that anymore.
See,
You can't do anything except shoot up the fucking school.
I just
It's crazy.
realized something. We're raising fucking morons.
Yes, we are.
They get in fights in school.
Let's not.
Well, no, you're right.
I
I might have taken a few of those shots to my head, but no, but they get in fights in school. They do shit on school grounds. Dumb fucks. We just solved half of America's problems. When you have a problem with somebody, go across the fucking street and get off the property.
Yeah, it's after school. 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock.
Sorry.
Maybe
Yeah.
3 o'clock at the church. We're going.
No,
it's on.
it's true. Well, here and to Aaron's point, and I think it was a good one on a certain level. I think. Look at what happened in the 80s, though. I think it's more of a macro problem than it really is a micro problem. What happened since the 80s? Trickle-down economics. You start looking at the massive change of wealth into the hands of far fewer people. I think one of the problems the Democrats are having, for example, is that they really were they weren't really ever the advocate for the poor until kind of recently, sort of. They were always the advocate of the middle class. What's happened since the 80s with the middle class? It's shrunken and shrunken and shrunken and shrunken.
It's pretty much
we
gone.
live in a zero-sum world, money-wise, and all the money has moved swiftly upwards. Where if you like, I look at it. My old man was a nurse. I'm a nurse, and I make the amount of money that I make compared to what he was able to buy with it is massively different.
Right.
And it's like, I really think it's a macro problem where you start looking at people who are unhappy and they will blame somebody. You look at, and I know the Nazi thing is hard to throw at, I'm just using it as an example, but you look at the Weimar era of Germany that came before the Nazis. What did they have? They had World War I, basically destroy their culture, destroy their money, and then you had a whole generation of poor people having nobody to blame and hate for it. And then there's some asshole who says, I know exactly who you can hate for this. I will give you a point at which to throw your sword and you'll feel better.
Right.
Because fuck them. And I think that that's the more macroeconomic point of view that we're actually going through now. I don't think it's really about Trump. In a perfectly healthy culture, Trump could not exist. But we're not. We're a very unhealthy culture where people are poorer and poorer generationally. And I'm not talking about everybody, but I'm just saying as a culture, you look at the buying power and that creates anger and hatred, and it's going to go somewhere. And if you can't blame the actual economic system that did it, you're going to blame somebody. And if they point at the Mexican immigrants, they point at gay people, they point at lesbians, blah, 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 it's going to aim somewhere.
Right.
So that's my take. Sorry, guys.
No, you're fine. I
Thank you for the apology. Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the words used by Steve Eaton during the show in which we are asked to fucking talk.
I'm not trying to advocate for someone like Trump. I know he's a grifter. I know he's got a hustle. Yeah. And I respect the hustle, and he's brilliant at it. He really is.
Yeah.
At one time he said that, if he ever ran for office, he would run as a Republican because they're morons. That's what he said. He knew he could manipulate them. He knew what he needed to do and say, right? And I don't think they're morons. I think they're simple-minded people. They don't, and that proves in the statistics. College graduates, to people who they work with their hands. They don't have that education to confuse and, I shouldn't say confuse, to give them all these other options to
The best way to stop digging the hole, Aaron, is to put down the shovel. But go ahead, keep going.
You know what I mean? I think it's kind of silly because common sense should come in. Like when you look at someone like Trump,
It would be nice.
you should understand that, okay, this guy's trying to take over like everything. Like that's what he does.
Yeah.
He's that kind of guy. But the thing I think most people are saying is that the system that they've been fucked over by so many times and forgotten about by.
Yeah.
They feel like Trump might be that guy to throw a pile of shit on it.
Because at least he recognizes the problem. He
Yeah.
can see what people are worried about, and he's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Exactly. And here's the thing. What if he's right? Like, what if we have that wrong? That's what keeps going through my head. What if he is actually right? That system that we talk about, we even I wrote a story about it with Blackout. What if that system literally has convoluted our society with all this soft language, all these things about this and that and blah, 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 when it comes to, other groups and people, down to, men who are now trans going into female sports. I mean, I don't agree with that. I think he still has man shoulders. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of not fair. It's just not fair. I am all for, like, if you want to do like sports and have a trans league, why not? Why not do that? They have a women's league, men's league, trans league. Why not? Why not do that? But they don't.
I
Why?
think it shows
And that's pissing
something.
people the fuck off. I'm telling you.
I'm going to get my numbers wrong,
Please.
but
That's okay. We don't fact check on this show
Yeah.
until afterwards, when we come back and degrade you later.
Yeah, exactly.
We're like a real news organization.
they proved, I think it was last week, there was a report that came out, the amount of money that was used in politics to fight trans athletes, and I'm using this as an example,
Mm-hmm.
but it is to my point. It was something like they spent $200 million, and the amount of money for the amount of actual athletes that were trying to get out there and be trans, it was ridiculous. They were basically spending, I think it was like $118,000 on each of them to try and fight this problem that really isn't the problem. And it's really because, that money has to come from somewhere. And if you can shove it in to make people hate people and use wedge issues like, like trans athletes or, illegal immigration.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can use those wedge things to make it seem like there's somebody fighting the problems, these solutions ain't gonna fucking work.
Right.
But if I'm not saying they would, I'm saying like if they did what they were planning to do, I disagree with the point to say what if he's right, because his solutions won't fix shit. Like if he did the things that he wants to do,
Mm-hmm.
it's literally not going to fix anything. Making the culture more homogenous will do nothing but that, and people are still going to be broke and angry at the end of it because they're not going to change anything economically or otherwise.
I get that too.
Yeah, I'm not saying you could be wrong. I'm saying
I get it.
I'm saying I think Trump got the problem right, and he's told people what he thinks the problem is,
Mhm.
and his solutions suck a whole lot of dumb. So it's he's giving solutions that work out well for him and billionaires and millionaires
Yeah.
for that purpose.
But I think he's
get
also-
lower taxes. Trickle down economics fucking works, and you're like, okay, we've been doing it for 40 fucking years, hasn't done a goddamn thing.
Yeah.
But let's try it again. Let's do it again. Let's
Mhm.
give people their tax money back so they can put it in their pocket
Right.
and save it.
I think, but Trump plays off of fear, right?
He
does
does.
it all the time, and he does a good job. So here's the thing, though, about fear. What if, like, we're talking about immigration, or we're talking about, trans athletes doing female sports. The numbers may not be that grandiose and high, but in our culture, don't people end up taking advantage of situations? They do all the time.
Yeah.
So what if
Human nature.
you don't nip it in the bud right away, it will get worse and worse and worse. I think that's what Trump's coming from. Like, yeah, there's only a few trans athletes, but if we make this the norm,
Have you looked
female
up if they're
source is gone.
dominating, though?
what? Say that
Have
again?
you looked up if they're dominating?
No, I have not.
athletes.
I
You
have
should.
not looked up the stuff.
It's interesting.
But
It's
see, that's the thing.
interesting.
Where do you look
best-
this shit up anymore? Nobody knows.
I mean, literally, like look up women's swimmers. It was one of the big wedge points that they had for trans athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And they said like this person came in and was doing great, and it's like at the end of the day they came in fifth.
Right.
You know,
Right.
two cis women, female athletes, and you're like they're just competing. Obviously, I mean it'd be one thing. To that point, and here's the honest truth of it, guys. I could give a flying fuck about sports, but if we're making it the point of the issue,
Out of all the things in the world to talk about sports, we're in trans sports right now.
Just one of many things.
you know, it's like that's an example though, where you're like, you know, if you spend $500 million promoting a problem
Mm-hmm.
and say this is the biggest problem we really have, you're like, it isn't all the broke people who need WIC. It isn't that. Nope. It's trans athletes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they can create those wedge issues, and then they put enough smoke and hand fingers in front of your face and make you pretend that it's a real major problem.
But it resonated.
It
That's
did.
how they
did.
communicate. See what
Confirmation
I'm
bias.
saying? Democrats aren't getting that picture that you've got to communicate to the people in the right way. Trump
I
has
don't
figured
think
that
you can
out.
communicate to those people. I really
You know,
don't.
I think you
that
can. If you want to win the vote, you have to learn. You have
I
to
can
find your
talk
audience.
to my mother, who I love.
Yeah.
And Carol Eaton, I love you. But I can talk to my mother for 5 hours. You know what's going to be right after that? 12 hours fucking Fox News.
Right.
You cannot talk to those people when they have basically a solid diet of that from that side.
That's
And
true. I understand your point there, but what I'm saying is, you know, if you're relying on their vote, it is your job
You shouldn't.
to find a way.
That's the problem.
Well, you need those people, and
No,
now
you
you're
don't.
starting to win a vote.
You need the 18 million people who got pissed off at the Democratic Party
Mm-hmm.
who didn't vote.
Maybe.
That's who you need.
Yeah, maybe.
yeah,
I'll
and
give
if
you
they-
that.
Yeah, I am so sorry not to be
No,
argumentative.
I give you that. But at one time, that same group of people all voted for someone like Obama. He was able to reach those people that Kamala wasn't able to do, or Hillary.
Why do you
right?
think that was?
I think it's because of the way the culture is right now. I think it's the way people. I think it's a masculine thing. I don't think this feminine side of stuff is working. That's why Trump went on Joe Rogan and all these other male podcasts. I think he had that in tune, that, you know, white males especially. But it wasn't just them. He got Latino men. He got fucking black men. He got them all, because men are men, and I think men feel forgotten about. And they went all with women, and women didn't do what they were supposed to do from the Julia Roberts fucking ad. You know,
Well, they did.
hey, your husband
They
doesn't need
voted-
to know who you vote for. It didn't work, dude.
In
Your
numerous
husband-
states.
I missed,
They
was
did
that really
vote
an
in-
ad?
It was an ad, dude.
Oh my God.
It's a hilarious
Yeah,
ad.
that was
It's
real.
great. It's great.
Wait. I'm sorry. Before we jump in, I'm sorry,
Sorry,
Steve.
please
I
talk.
got to talk. I got to say something about this ad. Are you kidding me?
No, it's a
In
great
a
ad.
world divided, the Democratic Party got Julia Roberts to help with an ad that says your husband doesn't need to know who you voted for,
Yeah.
causing division inside the home, which is the one place that both fucking members of the couple want
Yes.
peace,
I'm gonna see if I can.
and they're
find
causing division right there at the base of it all.
Oh yeah. It's great. It's so great. Hang on.
I'm so glad I don't fucking watch shit anymore.
I'm gonna see. Tell me if you guys can see this. Okay, I'm gonna share it. Can you see this? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Hopefully the sound comes through. Oh no, it's not. Damn it. Hang on. I want to learn how to share on this fucking thing. Anyway, keep talking while I work on it.
Well, okay, fine. I'll keep talking about it. It fucking blows my mind. Why would you? Here is the this is a master. I love you, Steve. Don't get this the wrong way when I say this. This is the passive aggressiveness of fucking extreme lefts, fucking up their entire job of making sure people vote in the right direction that they want to see happen.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So you have the extreme right, which is like a verbally abusive fucking person in your life, and then you have the extreme left, which is the most passive aggressive thing, and you just want to grab everything. This is why I fucking do this shit. I just want to fucking smash their fucking heads together and say, can you just fucking figure it out?
Well, and I think that one of the big problems with that is that we have two separate and entirely different bubbles. Like, I think, and when you have capitalism, I hate to keep coming back to capitalism, but when you have podcasts that get $50 million from a quiet Russian government to try and push the election right, or huge corporate interests trying to make sure that shit gets blasted out constantly, it's no doubt why we're in bubbles. You know,
Mhm.
like, yeah, you know, you look at the Kochs of the world, or the I don't know what the other boogeyman
Oh,
that people
shit.
talk about on the left, but
Whoa.
yeah, you know, we've moved. Honestly, you look at like the people. Nixon shows up tomorrow. He is a hardcore lefty compared to the Republican Party right now. You know, like
Yeah.
you've had us move so far to the right where I'm like, I am extreme, but only because I am like a Jimmy Carter Democrat. You
Right.
know, like that's where I'm at. I don't believe in communism. I'm barely a socialist. I believe in capitalism to some degree. You know, but I think that's what it really is. Like when they constantly like the fucking Roman army move things hard right, and then the left goes, yeah, we'll move it for a little further, and then the right comes back in, and then they move real hard. People hate losing.
Yeah.
We want to win, and I think a lot of people, when you spend your entire lives like I have, going the left is constantly losing. Even when we win, we're losing.
Right.
That's hard to stomach over and over again.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think that's why 18 million people didn't fucking vote.
Right. Can you see the screen, guys?
Yep, screen's
Yeah.
up.
Okay. I don't think you're going to hear it very well, but here, hang on. I'm going to try something.
Your turn, honey.
In the one place in America where women still have a right to choose. You can vote any way you want. And no one will ever know.
Those two are in love. Did you see
Did you
that?
make the right choice?
That was
Sure
Charlie.
did, honey. Remember, what happens in the booth stays in the booth.
Seriously, those two are going to have coffee.
Vote common good is respected.
That is a horrible fucking ad to run
It really
to
is.
be supportive.
It's hilarious.
And I can make that argument because I've grew up with my fucking mom and dad. Just celebrated 55 fucking years of marriage. Nothing gets between those two fucking people, and they are almost further left than fucking Steve.
Right.
It happens, everybody.
It's a beautiful ad. Did you see the guy? Did you vote for the right one there, honey? Did you do it? I mean, come on, dude. See how insulting that is to fucking
With the
people?
bedazzled fucking American hat. That was my favorite part. Actually, no. The lesbian tension between the two women there was my favorite part.
Oh,
The
facts.
bedazzled hat was the best.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
yeah.
that's just not the way. It's condescending.
It's patronizing.
Yes.
Yes.
It's really fucking patronizing.
Yeah.
And, people
And I
are
get it.
tired of that.
Yeah. They were pissed off, and that's why Trump goes at him head on. And,
When did that
you know,
ad come out?
Oh, a few weeks
Like
before
a couple
election day. I
months
think.
ago,
Yeah.
like
Was it a
not
couple
long
months?
ago.
Yeah. I don't even know if that was that
I
long.
think maybe a couple weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Oh.
It's good, right?
Wow.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And
It's patronizing.
Yeah.
It really. I mean, but to be fair, you know, you were saying like the women showing up. Women did show up in a ton. Like 3/4 of the states that had abortion
Yeah.
on the ballots,
Mm-hmm.
they were defeated. People
Yeah.
they got the right wedge issue. They
Yeah.
just didn't know who the hell they were talking to, and didn't realize that
Exactly.
just because people didn't want abortion to be outlawed, but they'd want Kamala.
Right.
You know,
No.
that's patronizing. To
Yes,
think
it
people
is.
are that simple.
Yeah, that's the problem. You know,
Yeah.
and they got to just regroup. They got to figure it out.
Yeah.
They got to figure out. I do like Democratic policies hell of a lot more. I like that they try to give a shit. I think it bit them in the ass with all the celebrities that got their back because those people can't relate to the normal person. Like, you know, seeing Taylor Swift or, you know, J-Lo doesn't really do anything for me. I'm just like,
We do have Danny DeVito though.
yeah.
I
But
want
who
you to
did
know
they?
that. And come on, Danny DeVito.
but they brought in Hulk Hogan. You know, they brought like the B-list team in there, and people can relate to the ghetto. I mean, that's what they did. You know, and I watched them like, oh, this is a
Scott Baio,
fucking
bitch.
freak.
Yeah.
This is just a freak show of freaks.
Yeah.
They won.
Yeah.
They
And really,
fucking
I
won.
think the numbers show you though that the Democrats lost a whole lot more than Republicans won.
I agree.
You
with
know,
that.
when they
Yeah.
lost 2 million votes and the other side lost 18 million,
Yeah.
that screams to the world that you lost this more than
Yeah.
they won.
I agree.
And-
I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they need to figure out what the fuck they did wrong quick, or
Yeah.
we're going to just keep repeating this. It's going to be JD Vance next time,
Yeah.
and we'll be going full Handmaid's Tale, and people are going to be like, "But why?
Yeah.
But why?" And you're like, "Because you lost.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter fucking why. Figure it
Yeah.
out."
They need to get in touch with people who make $100,000 or less.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
they do. They do. Now they've got all these rich fucks, and now they're more like we think the Republicans always were. Give tax breaks to the rich. Well, it
Yeah.
seems like the Democrats have catered to the celebrity status, the people who've got money, the educated.
Well, because they look at the other side and they go, well, that seems to be working. And you're like, they're two different types of people.
They
Yeah.
are.
They're different people.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't know, guys. It's crazy. But you know what's better? I hated Trump this whole time. And now I'm starting to come around and understand that the feelings I have, and we talked about it earlier, and especially like media and where you get your news from. I don't trust any source at all anymore. Never. CNN, Fox, what I read online. I don't know where you're supposed to get your information from, honestly. I could find anything. I can go to imright.com and find the answer I'm looking for, right? I could do that. So I don't know. I don't know where you get it. All I know is how I feel.
Yeah.
I know my feelings. And I know helping other people is the right thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Not that I can do it all the time well, but I know it is always the right thing to do. When I feel irritated by someone who's too PC and telling me I can't say certain things,
Yeah.
that irritates me. I feel that. And I can only imagine that a majority of people have those feelings too. And if they do, that's what they should go with. And I think that's where people are. I don't give a fuck where you get your information from, what you read. How do you feel? What do you
Yeah.
feel? I
I
make
think
movies
a
that
whole lot
way.
of people are
Why would
there.
I be? Yeah, I would not make a story like our films and go with something that's not inside my gut and how I feel
Yeah.
about it. I think that's where people are. So.
I agree.
And that's
I
it.
fully agree with that. Yeah.
Yep. George
I
Carlin
think-
said it best.
And I hated Trump the whole time. And the more I feel different now, because as soon as he won, I was like, if I could go to jail for 30 years for pissing on his face, I would absolutely do it.
Yeah.
So that's where my feelings are afterwards.
Me too.
Yeah.
I get it. I get
Right,
it. I get it.
right between the makeup on both sides of his face.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
It's crazy.
I'm never going to be a senator now.
No, that's okay. We like you as a filmmaker anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think we're in the end game now, people.
End game. End game.
It's but Chuck.
Well, I mean, here's the question that everybody seems to. How do I say this question? I'm not worried about offending anybody. I'm just trying to say how I say this question.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I said it similarly to Aaron the other day. Those of us who are older, or those of us who enjoy watching movies, have learned how to deal with fear simply by watching Nightmare on Elm Street. If you want to make the fear not bother you, take away its power by not giving it your fear. Half of this election was all fear mongering, and everybody reacted like it was a fucking script and they followed exactly along the lines. But if you take away the fear, you don't give them that power over you, you'll be better off. And I've seen so much of that in people. I don't do social media as much anymore. Everybody knows I've been doing a lot of things different, and thank God.
Smart, Chuck.
But I got on one because my birthday was last week, and thank you for the birthday wishes, everybody. Well,
Yeah.
but I got on after
Happy
the election
birthday,
just
Chuck.
because of the thing. I got on after the election though, just because I wanted to see which of my friends are really hurting. And even though they might be extremely that way, people are posting all these pictures of always having division. And I've always been that guy who's got these
Join
nice
together.
long arms, joined together, created a company motto that sounded, And so, yeah, I believe in holding everybody together. No, I'm not running, motherfuckers. I am not gonna. No, I don't even want to fucking move up in positions of management in where I work. I don't know. I don't need any of that. I've got a very good life. I don't want to fucking. I don't think I have the answers. I don't have the answers. All I have is my own personal way in which I live, which is loving on people as they are. I do not expect anybody to censor me and to believe what they believe. I don't care if you identify as the fucking devil. I'm not going to beat you with a Bible. I might giggle, but I'm not going to change those things. I'll still love you as you are, but you're not necessarily going to make me think I could be one too. That's not how things work for me.
Right. Yeah.
But it hurts. It saddens me how hurt everybody is from what's going on. And a lot of the things too that I noticed that people were very fearful of in the 2 weeks leading up to the end was the fact that everything that, a lot of the things I noticed was what people were saying about, special interest type things as far as abortion and this and that. All those things are more state. all everything's like
They are
oh, this-
now. Yeah.
Right.
Are now.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like okay, but this feels like I'm closing out the show almost. My aspect of everything is okay, special interests. I don't do conspiracy theories. I really don't. I don't take the news as what it's worth. I just like, oh, that's interesting. But let's think about it. The last person who went really hard against all the special interest groups and was actually making changes on his own was Kennedy. And that's the only fucker who ever got shot at and died.
Bingo. That is
Mhm.
absolutely it.
That's
I think
one of
what
those.
it is.
That's
right
one of those things that I find interesting. Let's see. You get shot in the ear. You get shot in the stomach. Reagan took one in the
I can't remember.
abdomen
Wasn't the
or in the
abdomen?
shoulder.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, him or his bodyguard. One of them got in the shoulder. One of them got in the fucking abdomen. Even Jesus Christ, fucking 200 yards away, and the fucker only shot an ear. I mean, come on. You either learn how to fucking aim before you pull the trigger. I mean, come on. Young gentlemen, we've been jerking off in a toilet forever. I'm sure you can increase your aim. But my point being is that it's only those who are trained that succeed. So I'm not saying that you should start taking shots at presidents. I'm just saying that
Chuck, out of the three of us, I love that you're the one that went this place.
where does the leadership? What can I say? I really like a good storyline. Where does the leadership actually have the control? I don't know. I don't believe in our politicians, and I don't believe any of them really have control.
Mhm.
That's why I don't
I
vote.
don't think
That's
you
why
will.
I hate that everybody gets so amped up and so fearful and so hateful from it. I
And
wish
that's
you
what
wouldn't.
Steve's. I think that's what Steve's talking about. That's the narrative that the media pushes,
Yeah.
the right does, the left does, and you get caught up in it. And if you just go back
Yeah.
to how you feel, without all that noise, you may find your answers.
Yeah.
If I could find a way to be like, well, I got nothing to do with Trump. I don't like him. It's pretty obvious. But I'll wish him the best, because if he's right, I'm wrong. But great, if I'm right and he's wrong, we'll all know, right? The point is to stay together as close as you can, take care of one another, and see where it goes. I mean, that's all
And do
you
what
can
you
fucking
can with what you have.
That's all you can
do
fucking do.
what you can.
Yeah.
If you work in a place where you can affect change in a good way and help people who might be marginalized or hurt by this shit,
Yep.
do it,
You stand up. For
please.
it. Yeah. Yeah. If that's how you feel, do it. Say something.
The
Don't
world's
sit there
gonna
and let
get
it
tough.
happen.
It only gets tougher.
Yeah. Yeah. What'd they say that shit goes bad when great men do nothing? Is that the quote?
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
like
Or
that?
I think that it's one of my favorite quotes, and it might be the same thing you're getting at, but I love that too. The only thing that's needed for evil to exist in the world is for good people to do nothing.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
That's the one.
Goddamn right.
That's the one. You go by that, I think you'd be all right. If you can
Yeah.
initiate it and be effective with it and not
Yeah.
play victim and be scared. You can't.
Yeah. You don't want to be
afraid.
the Team America.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't help.
No, it doesn't help.
What the fuck was this?
I know it's good.
Team America, man. Like you.
Team America. Yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah.
I just couldn't tell
That
if
is
you were
not a-
fearful or if you're excited.
It's
Yeah.
it's not
In
an
sign
audio
language, it says
show.
we.
We just had a political conversation together, guys. And you've got Steve on the left. You got Chuck more towards the right. You got me kind of in the middle. Look at that.
Yeah.
How'd we do that? Oh, I know why. Because we like each other.
Yeah. I love you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, love you too. Love you too. Well, thank you.
Well, I'm
guys.
awfully fond of you both.
Well, that's nice, Chuck. I'm so glad. Okay, well, next week I guess we'll hopefully have a guest show, and we can
We might have a guest next week, and if we don't, we might just talk.
we will
Because
just talk.
We put out a show that's a talk show.
Mm-hmm,
So sometimes when we have a talk show, we just might have to
yeah,
speak.
yeah, and I think it's okay when we talk about like what's going on that's important to everybody right now. This is a big
Yeah.
topic.
If the
And-
guest doesn't show up next week, though, we'll try to avoid politics.
yeah,
I
we
will.
would
I
probably-
will
I think
say
we got
that.
it out.
I think
I will say that this version of everything was better than this would have been 4 years ago, since we are on the 5th year of Around the Reel. If you haven't
True
been paying
that,
attention,
true
go
that.
back and check out some older shows. I think that 4 years ago, talking politics in this scenario would have been so fuck him, fuck him, fuck him, fuck him, fuck him. That's why nobody wanted to really talk, because there's only so many fucks that we can put up with on a show. Sorry, Mom.
correct.
At least three of us. No,
Yeah, there's three.
But still, I mean, like I said, I've never been a fan of Trump, but I didn't like him since The Apprentice. I loved him in Home Alone too, but
Oh, yeah.
ever since The Apprentice,
I'll never forgive him for Home Alone 2.
It's a
Yeah,
fabulous.
yeah.
What a great cameo. Didn't they pull that out of there too?
Did they?
I heard.
it depends on what station you fucking watch the movie on.
Oh yeah, true that. True
That's
that.
some bullshit.
Yeah, yeah. Get his ass out of the Home Alone.
You watch that on Fox, man. It's there all day.
Yeah.
Put it on fucking CBS.
Yeah, gone.
They don't even have.
Yeah.
They don't even have the fucking
Yeah.
bird lady.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. That was actually fun.
Likewise.
That was fun. Yeah. Good talk. Good talk. All right, next week we'll come back, talk some creativity, movies, fun stuff. Got a lot to talk about there too. So, Chuck, would you
Yo.
want to close out the show, my friend?
Oh God! Well, thank you for showing up today and listening to everything of not non-creative on a very wonderful and special episode of Around the Reel. Thank you, gentlemen, for being honest, blunt, and totally open to the idea that everyone has an opinion and yours doesn't necessarily matter, but you're free to open and suggest it and share it with everyone. No, more importantly though, like everyone says though, I use that quote. News. I don't watch the news. I stopped watching the news because I didn't like looking at death and despair and everything first thing in the morning. I just wanted to see what the weather was for the day, which, I've got a watch. I have a watch to do that for me now. I don't even have to watch the TV. So, you can be uninformed, you can be misinformed, you can be overly informed, and no matter what, it doesn't greatly affect your life. Nothing that's going to happen over the next 4 years is going to cause you to die by somebody who is not within your space.
I hope
Okay.
so. I hope the bombs don't start
fingers
dropping.
crossed.
We went through Reagan and Bush where we were afraid of which motherfucker was going to push the button.
Yeah, but
We went through Clinton and everything that I don't know what the fuck he was doing. Or fucking.
he was
We
busy.
had all of that aspect.
Cigars and saxophones.
Yeah, cigars and sex. Oh, saxophone. I'm sorry, my bad.
Saxophone.
Here's the important thing. Everybody who's out there afraid, remember that it does not matter what the propaganda is or what the promises are during the campaign. None of those fuckers come through. Obamacare lasted, what, a year and a half? I believe they're still waiting for the permits for the first wall from 2016 because we all know that permits take for fucking ever. So, as I said, if you don't know what the fuck to do with your life, go and watch the original Nightmare on Elm Street and learn how to take the fear away from the power that you fear. There's no reason to actually be afraid of anything except for what might actually go bump on the night, in which case, send your husband and don't tell him who you voted for because apparently Julia Roberts thinks that's a great idea. Thanks everybody for listening and have a great day and think hard because now we're all thinking anyway.
That's right. That's right. I think Trump left the holes in the walls so that it'd be easier to get the immigrants out. We'll see everybody later.
Bye-bye.
Hey, would you like to be a guest on the Around the Reel podcast? If so, just reach out to aroundthereal253@gmail.com. That's aroundthereal253@gmail.com. And remember, keep punching, don't quit, and follow your dream.